We are a little behind because of that, but we will, here in just a minute, start.
Access to information, all information, and I'm we can have all kinds of conversations about where, but that will not tolerate censorship of any kind. Censorship of any kind.
I think the balance system is so up to date here. She's going to get us the resume. So,
Yeah, we don't have all. Four different steps. But I'll look at that.
I think I gave my packet back to Stacy too.
Monday.
Sorry for the hiccup.
Right, probably that. Yeah, the one that we put it after. Remember that discussion? Yeah. Last clear cut.
Just cigarette out front yard, but that's why.
I was wondering what we were there for.
That's front for. But it's dispatch home and
Right down here.
yeah.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding? What was the response time? I'm curious.
Yeah. Anyway, it's out. I know the trees. I didn't.
Hey, for this, you guys got a second before you get into this. This is for the language for the camping for government employees. Yeah, okay. We'll get in the morning then.
Sallie. How are you? Kindly introduce yourself.
My name is Sallie Stetson. I currently work at East Elementary School. I've lived in the county off and on since 1983. And I'm a strong proponent of public libraries. Of what? Public libraries. Support.
We can pull up microphone, you're softer spoken and there you go.
I have the same problem, so I understand. Okay.
I know.
We can have you stand back. It's.
So I get the library newsletter and I read it, and I am in a place in my life where I would like to find ways to give back to the community. And when I saw this, I thought it would be something that I could give my time and energy to. And that's the reason that I applied.
Are those people getting admitted? Are you admitting all those people? Yeah, I think we gotta admit them, and then something goes south, and we'll have to just cancel them. And I've been getting a lot of emails about this.
Okay.
So.
You know, we have had a couple instances that haven't been great, so. Try to recognize who gets let in.
Anyway, as you were.
I was frankly surprised that there was an interview for this position. So I don't know if you have a list of questions to ask me or.
Really, we don't, I've had multiple applicants, that's why interviewing is kind of.
I have some general questions.
Yeah.
As do I, you know.
Do you want to start with that and then,
Sure.
okay,
Sure.
Sure. If not, I can jump in. So this is a long term, it's 7 years.
Yes.
This is a sizable commitment. I was reading through your letter of interest, says this is your retirement job. And
I'm currently in a retirement job. So I've been a teacher for 35 plus years and now I'm working as a paraeducator, which is a lot less stress and a lot less responsibility. I basically just get to work with the kids, which is what all teachers ultimately hope to do. And so I have more time and energy available to give back.
so as I'm a lifetime library card holder. I love the library. I spent many hours there growing up. So I've seen and witnessed firsthand and experienced the changing mission of our libraries as time goes on, particularly during COVID. We saw things shift. It went from more of just a storehouse of, knowledge and access to a place for people to receive vital services and access the internet when other systems were not able to support that function. We see an increase in AI. There are kids getting to college that are illiterate. I just listened to a report off a news station the other day. The gal she couldn't read. She had everything read to her. Advent of AI is just going to speed this up. In your mind, how do we keep our library systems relevant going forward with these unprecedented challenges?
I am so impressed with the changes that our libraries have done to keep up with technology and to provide a wide base of activities and resources for people. Like you said, it used to just be you go in and browse the encyclopedias and the books, but now, there's Legos, there's guest speakers, there's performers who come, and it's just amazing the opportunities that are provided by our public library for free for our community members. And I would like to support the continuing involvement of the library to keep up with the demands of our population and what we can provide for them. To keep, I see the library as providing kind of a even playing field for people who don't necessarily have Wi-Fi, who don't have access to computers. And I think that is such an important role that the library provides.
And this is on the scope of the entire community. We're not just, catering to kids anymore. One thing that I'm seeing right now is people my age and younger don't have vital skills. They didn't learn how to cook, how to clean, how to do these very vital tasks. I think you spoke well about the evolving needs of the library and having more events. One thing really important to my particular district is, access to books in a very rural setting where you don't have the ability to come in all the time. What are your thoughts on the bookmobile program and getting reading materials out to youth, seniors, and everybody else in rural communities?
Fabulous. I think bookmobile is fabulous. And I personally have also used the mailers, which it just blows my mind that I can get a book and read it and then return it. I haven't done that as much just because I've gone to the online Hoopla program, which is fabulous. And I love it. And if I can get a little additional there, my husband passed away about 6 years ago, and it was difficult getting to sleep by myself. And so I would put an audiobook from Hoopla on my phone, and there's a great little timer, so I could put it on for 15 minutes and hopefully fall asleep. And then if not, I know, okay, I could put on for another 15 minutes. Or if I fall asleep early, I know that I don't have to go back 15 minutes. And that was very helpful in getting me through. Also, I didn't do any grief counseling, but boy, I checked out every book in the library on grief and just went through it. And it was very helpful. And it was something that the way that I wanted to deal with it. And I'm glad that the library was there to support me for that.
I got just one more question. If I will step on your guys, if I jump, sorry. it, I value information access. And I think as a board member, you're going to have a large amount of control over what is presented to the public in the library. My parents were extremely open with me when I was growing up. We would talk about things. If I had questions about some subject I was reading, I would go to them and say, hey, this, that, what, you know, and they'd tell me their honest opinion. What are your thoughts on accessibility of material and breadth of material? It's a hot button issue right now.
It sure is.
And I'd like to hear your thoughts.
I support parents' rights to determine what access their children have to information. And I would hope that they would go to the library with them, pick out books, read with them, and talk about what they've read. I don't think that it's the library's responsibility to parent children. And I think if we restrict information to people, then you're taking over a parenting role, which is not the role of the library. You know, I don't want people telling me what information that I can share with my children. That's my responsibility. So I think that that is something that needs to stay with parents, and the library should not be involved in that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That was the last of my questions.
So I guess to tag on to that, though, do you think unfettered access by children to material that may be inappropriate to them is, I mean, I guess, how do we protect kids from inappropriate material if we're going to say not, and we've got a lot of emails lately on this position, more than I thought we would, because, and a lot of it is negative towards us, like that we're gonna sink to books and burn books and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah,
That we have no power to do.
yeah, we have no power to do, right?
Nor we
But-
want.
But
So my huge concern is the library is a wonderful place and has very good resources and lots and lots and lots of volunteers and people there. And then I see, because I'm in the schools and I see kids, and they have so much more unrestricted access to the internet and TikTok. And to me, that is more worrisome than books in the library. Because it is so much more unregulated than our library. Our library uses common sense. And we have good people working there, and I trust them. The internet, TikTok, scares me to death.
Oh, it's terrible.
Scares me to death. So I would say to those people, please redirect your energy away from our libraries. We're very responsible, and take on what is truly scary, which is unfettered access to the internet and TikTok, and there's no controls.
what do you think the library, so specific to Okanogan County, because this is a regional library, so this is a position for representing Oakland. What do you think is the things that are doing good with the library system today?
The most impressive thing is how well they're keeping up with the changing demands and changing concerns of our communities, and providing a meeting place for different organizations, different activities. It's just amazing the things that you can get at the library for free. I don't know if you know, but you can check out a national park pass and go to the parks. To me, that is just amazingly wonderful, right? I mean, I can't think of another library system that does anything like that. And our library system is so amazing in another way, in that, you know, we're covering 5 counties and 30 libraries. I mean, sure, there's small local libraries and some of them are huge, but just to be able, you know, any city you go to within, 90 miles or whatever, you can go into a library and check out a book. If you're camping, somewhere and you run out of things to do, you can go to a library and get a book if you'd like. So it's just, I think we have such unique opportunities and just a system that is just so wonderful. I'm very impressed with it. Personally, one of the things that I am also amazed about is that if there's a book that you want, there's a place on the website that you can say, please consider buying this book. I mean, to me, that is just amazing, right? I mean, it's just fabulous. So I just see that as another way that the library is responsive to the community.
I'm gonna ask you the flip side of that question.
And I am so worried and so frustrated because the physical access to our library is being blocked by homeless people and drug addicts. And I'll give you an example. The library was doing a summer program, and I brought my grandchildren there in the park right next to the library, and they had all sorts of people, coming in about wildlife. And so they had tables set up, and you could, do check about prints and just match which animal. We had to actually shut down that program because two homeless people started fighting in the park and scared the kids. So to me, that is such a crime to deny access to people because they're afraid to go to the library. They're afraid to walk the gauntlet of the homeless people.
I guess the last thing is just a statement. John told us that they were canceling the bookmobile. That was a big deal.
Yes.
And especially in this county when, they are meeting and people don't realize how rural it is. When you're talking in some of these places, driving an hour to get to the library, and you barely have enough money to provide food and shelter, things like that, making a trip to the library is difficult. And so it really bothers me that I understand funding, believe me, sitting in this chair right here, you have to, we're going through it right now. Like, okay, what programs are we have to cut? But I think that whoever gets in this position really needs to be a voice for the fact that not all these people can travel to the library. Not all these people even maybe get mail. Maybe understand how to use the books by mail. Things like that.
Or have Wi-Fi to get
or have Wi-Fi, or even if there was Wi-Fi available, if you have money for a computer, tablet, no, probably.
And you're right. The biggest concern for everybody should be funding. To keep adequate funding for the library. And I don't know if right now, because of funding cuts, they put a limit on how many books can be checked out each day, which when I got that message, it was pretty heartbreaking to realize that the library is in budget cutting measures. So, sometimes I wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and check out my book or whatever, I make it work because I can, but that did make me sad. And I didn't hold it against the library because I absolutely know that funding is critical. And so if there's any way to look at other funding sources, I think that's an important avenue that needs to be explored.
So I have one that's kind of a question, maybe just food for thought, that you were talking about the homes in the library. I know multiple libraries have an issue because the Wi-Fi's on 24/7. Yada, yada, yada. We've gone round and round with our local library. They actually shut it down for a month period from, I think it was from 10 to 5, 10 p.m. to 5. All the vandalism stopped, everything else. End of that month, turn it back on. And no response since. I understand public access and everything else, but I guess I have a hard time understanding why it needs to be on 24/7 when the majority of the people that are there because of the Wi-Fi at those hours, and they're not doing a book report. So, I have mixed views on that, but as far as public safety and the potential destruction of property, it seems like that's not a wise decision.
Yeah, the good of the few does not outweigh the good of the many. Right. You were at a place that had to shut down you know, because kids were afraid of that. That is, you know, and that's something that I think that a lot of politicians in the state, they overlook because they want everybody to have access and, you know, they want to give everybody opportunity, yet by doing these things, by the allowance of these things to happen, they take opportunity from other people.
Yes, exactly, because those homeless people are using the park as their house and not letting people, or people are uncomfortable walking
I
through
don't,
there.
I don't necessarily want homeless people to a category like that.
Okay, the people who are living in the park.
People that are not doing what they should be doing in those areas, not respecting other people and, you know, property and things like that. There has to be something done to, you know, to fix that issue. And if it's the library that can have any effect on that, you know, I don't think most people who want to visit the library with their children or come in and visit the library would see it as a bad thing if Wi-Fi was turned off 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. because not a lot of people are trying to access it.
I think it goes beyond homelessness to just, you know, I have a large amount of compassion for someone in that situation, but it goes back to, you could have a house. You could be somebody, you just lack respect for the property of others, the personal space of others, or an event like that. So I think it comes down to just basic respect for the area and other people. I think that's what it comes down to.
And you're right, I mean, I have compassion for those people too, but my concern is the experience that you've had and the experience that I had. And I want to share that experience. I've had it with my children and I try to have it with my grandkids, but they're afraid. They're afraid to go to the library.
It's unfortunate that most of our public libraries are in that situation.
It's a horrible decision to, like, do we cut off a vital resource for somebody that might legitimately need it?
Right.
Or do we, for the needs of the many versus the needs of the few? That's what it comes down to. It's a hard decision.
I guess I got. Do you think there are any books that should not be?
I think if we go down that road, it's a slippery slope. And who's to decide which books belong in the library and which don't?
And I guess I don't mean, so it's not just a generalization of any book should be in the library, or is there a standard, I guess, at which you should say, no, that doesn't meet the standards of the library? I don't mean by political, you know, rhetoric or, you know, whatever. I mean, I think everybody should read the Communist Manifesto to understand it. You know, I think people should read the writings of Marx and of Lenin, things like that.
And the library is a good place to discuss those information, right?
Because you can get perspective on communism, you know, oligarchies, well, whatever. You can even start to understand when people start throwing those words out. You can actually understand like what they're talking about when they start saying this. I go more to the stuff that shouldn't be in libraries, things like that.
Well, knowledge is power, and people can get knowledge at the library, and then they can become powerful. And I understand the question. I think it's a very difficult one to answer, but there's no good answer to it. If you start saying that some books don't belong in the library, who's making those decisions, right? Whose values are we using?
Knowledge is, I mean, the inherent quality of knowledge is that it is dangerous. And we allow ourselves that to make ourselves powerful.
And back again, if parents are concerned about what books their children are checking out, then they need to be there at the library. They need to watch what their kids are checking out and reading and talk to them about it. But don't make the library a parent.
Yeah.
Don't.
You want the less of the state in our child's life, right? I think.
It's just like schools, you know, I mean, schools shouldn't be parent, and we're going on it right there.
Right.
But
And
I agree, but I
yeah.
appreciate the answer.
And I guess the flip side of that is any book that I deem inappropriate, you deem appropriate, whoever it may be, and you don't want the library, all they do is type it in, they can get it online.
Right.
So, I mean, you're not giving them a physical copy, but they can find it if they want.
Because the web is less regulated than our libraries.
You make a very good point.
And I guess my final question, and I don't know, so I don't know if you know, is there any way that the library can age appropriate, like what a kid is able to check out?
That definitely could be a possibility. And I know the library is set up so that they have the children's area and then the young adult area.
Right.
So they've already done that. And, you know, a lot of it, people are very worried, but they don't realize about reading levels. And, you know, they may be worried about the content of this book, but most kids, you know, 10 years old can't read that book because it's not their reading level. So again, it's just more of this, I guess, I don't know what it is, but
Be reading the third college club. So,
that's amazing.
yeah,
But
it is. So,
working in the school, I can tell you absolutely that is rare.
right.
Good luck keeping up with.
Okay. That's all I do. Yeah, I definitely appreciate the time.
Absolutely.
Yes, it wasn't too painful.
Well, I was just surprised at how serious this was because I was just happy to volunteer and get a chance to give back to the community. And I thought, oh my gosh, what did I step into, right?
When you talk about public, yeah, it's
Yeah.
obviously everybody else is taking it also.
Yeah, so I'm just willing to do what I can do now for the community.
And see, when you have multiple, we always talk about this. When you have multiple candidates for something or even multiple things, to just read on paper and try to make that determination by your resume, it's impossible. I mean, I just can't do it. I have to understand, you know, like, whoever wrote that, you know, very articulate, you know, I mean, those are things that you look for in candidates to be representative of, you know, the more central Washington libraries is, you know, can you articulate your thoughts? Can you, you know, what are your thoughts? Things like that. So, like I said,
Well, a lot of people can put stuff down on paper really well, but
Especially
Yeah,
with
verbalize it.
ChatGPT now, right?
but you can't verbalize it, and you find other people that can are very verbal, but write it down is a struggle.
Well, I love the library and the library has done so much for me and my family and provided so many opportunities. It's just amazing and I can't say how much that I appreciate it. And I would love to help in any way that I can.
Sallie, I hate to ask you this, but there was some people who were kind of concerned about, you know, because meetings like this have been, there have been times.
Politicized.
Unscrupulous people have done things on the internet that we've had to shut all over.
Mhm.
Obviously, the people are interested in, what was your background?
I have been a special education teacher for over 35 years. And now that I am getting older, I have changed what I do at the school now and I work as a paraprofessional. I work for the Title I program, which is where I get groups of students who come in and I do remediation work with them and then they go back to the classroom. So it's everything I was doing as a special education teacher, only without the parent meetings, without the paperwork, without all the responsibilities. So I have more energy because all I'm doing is working with the kids and that gives me so much energy back just to see the kids light up when they grasp a concept or they meet a goal. And so because I have that extra energy and time, I'd like to give back to the community. And so, like I said, I was just reading the newsletter and I thought, well, this would be a perfect time. I had no idea what I was right in the application process.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have an idea of what being on the board means because I've been on boards before. but I didn't realize what was going on. So, but am pleased with how responsive the library is to our community. And I, would like to give back. I also am impressed with, that I know is not always easy, that they've tried to make a real connection with the Native American community. And my husband was a Caldwell member, so I can't represent the Native American community, but I do feel like I'm part of it. My children are enrolled, and so I think that that's another important aspect that our library does do well.
Well, we appreciate you sticking with it, even though it's more of a process than what you thought.
Well, when you asked for a resume, you know, I threw my resume away a long time ago. I'm done. But please feel free to ask any follow-up questions later. And the only thing that I do ask is if, or when you decide who got the position, just to let me know.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, that doesn't mean they hire someone and you're like, oh my goodness, you know.
You were supposed to show up last week.
Right.
What's going on here?
One thing is, I think they're spread out. I think our next applicant interviewed next week. Yeah.
So give it a couple months.
No, not a couple months. We got a couple weeks because we can get somebody in here within the last person in here within the next, 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
We're gonna have to.
Well, thank you very much. It was not as awful as I thought it would be.
Well, I'm glad about as awful as you thought we're gonna be.
I'm still in my coat because I'm like, boy, I'm almost more nervous about this than any job application that I had to take care of. So thank you for your time.
I'm sure you had no idea what to expect. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes.
How many positions are open and how many applicants do you have?
One position open, we have 3 applicants.
We actually had
We
4.
had 5, one lived in the area, and one, the application showed up late, past the deadlines.
Yes.
Well, talking about the library, that's been a problem for a long time. Pre-COVID, I was on the library. Pre-COVID, we had guards for several years, made all the difference in the world. And I think the city was the hiring. I don't think the library system hired security guards from them, but it made a huge difference, and it was very well worth it.
Right.
And I am a current board member the last year and a month, and just learning what the library does and how kind of it works. I didn't know about the board of trustees, but they said in the board meeting today that there was no funding for security anymore. That's good.
Yeah, I understand. Everybody's budgets are getting tighter and tighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And public safety is playing gonna put a bigger dent in the budgets of cities, counties.
And y'all probably know that the museum and library funding was federally executive order. So that's a good 5%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but they're definitely, they're gonna have to be cut. And so my main concern, the reason I'm here is that I feel like it's important to be able to, but the cut in our future, I hope to continue being funded and that our support will be the programs like I like to do beautiful jobs. I have a lot of information, the LGBTQ youth and who need, I'm talking about get good information. Well, it's different than internet. It's something different. And it's very good. I read a lot of those books, incredibly educational for parents, community members, and different adults. Keep that. And that is one of the main things to share that I would like to see our representative represent all of our very diverse Okanogan County.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
something has to be done eventually, so.
Yeah, there is no perfect solution to a lot of problems.
I think I remember, because I was just reading, Martin Walter, and she's the head of the whole, the library system. She said they're mandated to provide internet services. I don't know about the hours. I don't
No,
know.
they're not.
But I know that she's, some things we can't cut.
Yeah, no,
So,
I've had numerous discussions with her, so,
yeah,
yeah, they are flexible on their hours if they choose to be.
yeah.
But,
The librarian in OMAC this afternoon said that cut the Wi-Fi from 10 to 5 or whatever is recommended. IT doesn't want them, said they'll touch the system. Anyway, routing it up again, or I don't know how it works, but it wasn't going to be feasible.
they can set it on a timer,
Yeah.
like they did in Orville when they had no issues.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's an excuse, because it's just like with any router, you can turn it on and off with a click of the, or a push of the button.
Yeah. I'm not gonna argue with it, but I know that's not completely factual.
The thing is that something has to be done. Kids are afraid to go to the park, to the library, and that's not just the library's issue, right? That's the city of Onac's issue. That's the city of Winthrop's issue. That's all, all of these different places. You have a park right next to the library, and that is where certain, people congregate that maybe are homeless or maybe have mental issues or things like that. It's a shady place with grass, try to stay cool. It's unfortunate, but you have to try different things that are less, or less, I guess, obtrusive than telling people they have to leave, or, saying, well, we're gonna take you to jail if you know what I mean, for not technically breaking any laws. There has to be some things that you do to try to remediate that issue.
Which they could have written regarding it. Really, it was wonderful. He was a local guy, he knew everybody, he made the whole library more branded and he wore a uniform, so it made an impression. So, whenever he stood there,
Yeah.
he was really good at, he saw something started.
Right.
Okay. So the next meeting is Monday at 2 for the second interview, is that correct? I believe that's right. Yes. Monday, June 16th at 2 o'clock. What do we know who that? Can you tell us who that will be?
That was Lisa.
Sorensen?
Sorensen.
Pardon?
Lisa
Lisa.
Sorensen.
Yeah, Sorensen, yeah.
Thanks, you guys.
All right,
Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. Yeah, see you next week.
We need more time to do it. I want to make sure. Well, I guess we can do it now, if you want.
No, I know, but starting over.
Oh, the PC, oh, sure, yeah, that's awesome. So, big thing was, the big changes, we're not bringing enough revenue there at the moment to justify what's going on in fairgrounds. Talk with Nate, talk with a bunch of other people in the area. We are uniquely poised with the fairgrounds kind of in the gathering places outside that can hold the events that